it's very challenging to live with whatever we carry.
Centerstone is a one-of-a-kind place.
And it was the best decision I ever made in my life. There's nothing holding me back anymore.
Our conversations with Centerstone, because this is information for the public to know before, we really need to know it when the situation gets too tough. And right off the bat, Diana, can you take me through the fellowship house just as an overview and some of the services you provide?
Yeah, of course. We actually provide 3 different stages or levels of care here at Fellowship House. We provide withdrawal management services, which is also known as detox services, and that's considered a level 3.7. We have that service for adult men and women. Then we also have a residential program, which is the level 3.5 for men, adult men only, so 18 years or older for adult men, and that stay usually is about 28 days. And then we have a level 1 basic outpatient program that is for adult men, women, and youth. The detox program, like I said, which is level 3.7, is usually anywhere from 3 to 5 days, depending on the substance that they were using, how long they've been using, any comorbid, physical issues that they might have when they come in, or any mental health issues that need to be addressed. So we try to take a look at the whole person when we admit somebody to our services and do what we can to address all of those things. We do require that everybody that comes in completes a medical screening with our nursing staff, and then a complete physical with either our nurse practitioner or our medical director. And that's kind of the determining factor of whether they can be actually admitted to the program. We want to make sure they're medically stable enough to be here. And,
Diana, not to cut you off there, but just to follow up on that very important topic of having those screenings, how many times, and not to ballpark it, but I could only imagine that more times than not, an individual is coming in that's maybe thinking, well, I'm just going in for the detox, or I'm going in for this, but they don't realize after the screenings that they could have maybe some very serious ailments or some things that they're dealing with. Do you guys come across that pretty often whenever you're doing these screenings and informing them, hey, we have to work on some health things first before we can tackle this?
It's not often that it's that we find something new necessarily, but something that they have been neglecting. So we want to do what we can to get them back on track with medications, or, we want to do updated lab work. And one of the things that has been very beneficial to our program is we now have a nurse practitioner that is on staff here. So she actually completed an interview with you previously.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's our nurse practitioner, and she is on staff here all the and on call. So we not only have a medical director, but we have a nurse practitioner now. So that's been very helpful in our attempts at being more thorough, at addressing any physical challenges that might go along with the addiction, so that we can, like I said, we'd like to try and treat the whole person.
Well, and I think without doing that, you're only, if let's say you threw out all those other situations and you just said, well, we still have to treat, you aren't tackling those very important core, whether it's mental health or maybe it's a little bit of a medication issue. If you don't tackle those, you aren't able to really fulfill that client's need and really that longevity and sustainability of their life. Is that kind of correct too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We do have a lot of people, that have had some type of illness or injury, and that's possibly where their addiction started because of the use of pain medication. Yeah. So if we don't address that and give them alternative ways to, try and treat their pain or treat their outlook on their physical well-being, then, it's hard to just treat one thing and not the whole thing.
Exactly. Well, and how many, is that pretty frequent that happens with some of the individuals that do come in the doors? Just my curiosity, because I can see that so many times that being the case where someone goes, hey, I got to take care of maybe tackling some of the drinking issues I have, but I can't tackle this other one yet because I need this to get through this first hurdle. Is that a similar conversation?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, we have people that come in from all walks of life. And that's to all of our programs. Some people come in and they are involved with the legal system. They're involved with DCFS. They're involved, with their employer requiring them to come get treatment. So we get people from all walks of life here. And so, we have people, of course, like I said, that have been using since they were very young. We have people that have potentially started using at an older age because, like I said, of an injury or an illness that the use of pain medication or something like that led to the issue of addiction and substance misuse.
And, Diana, as we keep moving forward, you already kind of touched on this a little bit during your overview, but could you describe the medically monitored detoxification program and a little bit more of what it involves and just some more detail on that program?
Sure. Like I said, it is for adult men and women both. We take a look at when they come into treatment, what their referral source is. So we make sure that all of their community entities that they're involved with stay informed as long as they give us permission to do that. Of course, because of the HIPAA laws, we have to be careful of that and have them sign all the necessary paperwork to release that information. But we try to make sure that referral sources stay informed. We try to make sure that not only their like I said, the physical withdrawal is addressed through, we have standing orders of medications that we can give to help with the symptoms of withdrawal. As you know, those can be quite uncomfortable depending on what the substance is that they are withdrawing from and the length of time they've been using and the quantity they've been using. And also, different things play into that, the age, like I said, comorbid conditions as far as their physical well-being, that also plays a part in how their withdrawal goes. So we do like to try and keep them comfortable, as comfortable as possible. So that's kind of how we treat the physical part. We also have recovery engagement specialists on staff that have their own lived experience and are now in recovery themselves. So we have that as a part of the withdrawal management program so that they can touch base. They meet with each person in our detox program and they talk about what their goal is, what kind of aftercare or resources we can hook them up with after they complete our detox program. And we have found that that's been very beneficial too. It really does have an effect on people staying in detox because they have somebody they can talk with that has been there, and understands what they're going through.
Well, and Diana, as I've been speaking with so many of your folks over at Centerstone, we've been talking about how important and how invaluable their role is in this because, it's pretty easy for a patient or client to say, you know what, you haven't lived this, you haven't been down this road, and it stops so much building. But whenever you're able to walk side by side with somebody who walked the same path or a similar path as you, and you're kind of going through this, to have that shoulder and to have those conversations of, man, this is day 5 of going through this withdrawal, and I don't know what I can do. Like, I can't get through this. Right. To have that shoulder, I could only imagine how enlightened those individuals are.
Right. Well, and to give you a little bit more detail about just kind of our overall, the program and the staff that we have here, we have, like I said, we do have the recovery engagement specialists. We have staff on the floor that consists of behavioral health technicians, EMTs, LPNs, RNs. We have the nurse practitioner, and then we have counselors, we have intake clinicians, operations specialists, and then we have billing staff, and then myself, I manage the facility. So we have a very broad range, and we have a very large number of staff who are currently, like I said, in recovery themselves. We have counselors that are in recovery. We have some of our floor staff are in recovery themselves. But we also have I feel like we have a good balance here at Fellowship House of people that have lengthy careers in the field with their education. We have bachelor's and master's levels people here, in addition to the people that have the lived experience. So I feel like we have a really good balance of that. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I say to clients sometimes when they do run into that, well, you don't understand, you haven't experienced this. And I kind of remind them, I'm like, well, when you go to the doctor, do you require your doctor to have everything that you've had to treat you? So, that's kind of one of those, it's a good balance. You get different perspectives of things, because I think you get a really good, feedback, obviously, from somebody that's lived it and has been through it and has worked the steps or worked some type of other recovery program. And then you get the piece from a person that has, maybe been a family member of somebody that struggled with it, or you have somebody that, is living what we would consider a healthy lifestyle. So why would you not want to learn from that person?
Right.
On how to do that? I feel like we have a good balance of that here at Fellowship House.
That's really good to know. And, Diana, that's a great point, too, about some of the loved ones, the supporters of the individuals that are going through these programs, because, so many times I'm sure that they're, maybe a little bit nervous about it, too. They're just wanting to make sure that, our loved one's doing well. What are some of those conversations like with maybe some of the loved ones of the individuals inside the Fellowship House? Do you guys, I'm sure there's always a line of communication at times whenever it's wanted.
There is, and we try to provide some education about, the disease concept of addiction and what withdrawal will look like, what early stages of recovery look like, what's necessary for them to be successful, and how the family members can support that. We have a lot of conversations with family members around what they call enabling behaviors, and how to draw those lines and maintain healthy boundaries to also protect their well-being, and to in turn encourage their loved one to continue on the path of recovery, because it's not an easy path.
Right. Well, and that's one thing, too, that we always try to highlight here is it takes a team. And just like your guys' very diverse team over at the Fellowship House and all throughout Centerstone, to be able to keep everyone in the loop, and really just keep everyone informed, educated, to really make sure that we're all taking the best path forward, because to me, it's a team project. It can't be one individual's journey. There's a bunch of folks that are kind of a part of it. And,
most definitely.
Diana, we were talking a little bit earlier about the residential rehabilitations program, and if you could take me through what makes it unique, maybe some of the different things that you guys do with your program that maybe aren't tried, as many times throughout other programs.
So one of the things, like I said, that I do think makes us unique, or maybe not unique's not the right word, but I think it makes us a really great program, is that balance of the staff that we have. Another thing is our location. We have a beautiful location in Southern Illinois. We are very fortunate to have the ground that we have,
right.
the physical, it's beautiful down here. We have out back, we've got an open field where we have a volleyball net, we've got disc golf, we have a walking path, we have a pavilion where they can sit and relax and enjoy each other's company. We even run groups out there sometimes if the weather's nice and we just want to be outside. So we have a lot of outdoor chairs, just outdoor activities. We've got ladder golf and bags, games, things like that they can do to enjoy the outside. And so we're right on the edge of town. So if you walk out the back door of the facility, it looks like you're out in the country as opposed to actually being in town. So it's really nice where we are located, and our landscape. We have a lot of flowering trees, and just like I said, the landscape here in Southern Illinois is really beautiful.
Well, and to hear those components of it, too, for maybe an individual that, is watching this maybe, or their loved ones are, to know that it's not just a gray room, and
right. It's very peaceful. It's very peaceful outside whenever you walk out back.
And, in your experience, Diana, how does that go into play, for the residents of the Fellowship House, that when you observe them, able to enjoy some of that, just the tranquility of being outside and some of the benefit that comes with the other options you provide? Do you see their morale increase during those, challenging times of recovery?
We absolutely do. It's our walking path in particular is used pretty frequently for, somebody that maybe struggles with anxiety or has, issues with panic attacks, or even depression. If we can get them outside and get them to, do some grounding exercises, get in touch with their senses. What are they hearing? What are they seeing? What are they feeling? It's a good distraction coping strategy for them to use whenever they are feeling anxious or overwhelmed about things. And, the thought of being in this life and no longer having something that you have depended on to numb feelings that are uncomfortable or avoid things, and then you get that taken away, it can be really overwhelming thinking about like, oh my gosh, I have to do this the rest of my life without that. How am I going to do that?
Yeah.
So when we get them out and we get them outdoors and get them, even playing volleyball or, just horseshoes or something like that they haven't done maybe ever. And then they find that they can have fun. They can laugh and enjoy their peers whenever they're doing something like that. So just getting to expose them to those things that they've not done.
Well, and that's what I truly believe is so crucial, because it, to me, when someone's going through that, you just hit it right on the head. And man, this is fine for 2 weeks, but how am I going to do this for, 40, 30, 50 years? And to be able to have those different options is just really crucial. And Diana, I wanted to talk with you about how maybe your adult and youth outpatient services might differ in approach, because I know that everyone's different on their recovery journey, and we go through so many different avenues. But when it comes to just some simple, if there are any simple differences from how maybe we treat youth to how we treat adults, I always find that conversation fascinating.
Yeah. Well, we just recently restarted our outpatient services because of they lifting the COVID restrictions and everything. So
Right.
we were able to resume. We at Fellowship House really like to focus on in-person services. We do offer telehealth. So we do kind of what we call hybrid approaches, because the telehealth services definitely break down some barriers as far as transportation and daycare and things like that. But there is something to say about that in-person contact. People like having a physical person to sit and talk to. And I think that making that connection, whether it be youth or adult,
Right.
is very helpful. But I do think that youth especially, they're so used to technology, and getting them kind of out of that comfort zone and actually making them providing an opportunity for them to learn people skills, to learn those communication skills and form a bond with a therapist is what's important. So we do provide a lot of education. Our outpatient program allows people to continue to go to school, to continue to work their jobs. We have a therapist on staff that is really good about trying to be flexible, with her schedule so she can accommodate other people's schedules. So I think that working with them and helping them utilize and learn healthy coping skills that they can actually use in the moment while they continue with their day-to-day lives is very important.
100%. And, getting back to just some of the core values of Centerstone, which we like to talk about, I wanted to ask you about the core philosophy behind the treatment methods that you guys use at the Fellowship House. Is there any values that you guys kind of share as a team when you're in, maybe a little bit of a team meeting or any build up to one? What is that philosophy for you all?
Our philosophy as a team is absolutely that everybody deserves an opportunity to change. Everybody deserves an opportunity to receive treatment and have a fair shot at a different type of life. We are all human, and we absolutely know and believe that, addiction can happen to anybody. Like our campaign states, and, everybody's one decision away from a different life, whether that's, the path of addiction or the path of recovery. And so regardless of, any type of background, belief, race, any of that stuff, we do believe that, as long as we can safely manage somebody here, we believe they deserve a chance at being here and getting that, the opportunity to make positive changes in their lives. And we try to do that through, we provide individual counseling. We provide group therapy. We provide the education classes so that we can teach them, about the 12 steps. We teach them about, different types of recovery. We talk about spirituality, but we also talk about, the 12 steps in a secular manner. So we have different approaches for, we try to make sure that the approaches that we take are person-centered, and we aren't by any means forcing anything. We just try to educate. And we tell people all the time, if it doesn't work for you, then move on and explore something else, but we like to educate on a lot of different things so that we can hopefully get you to connect with something that we do teach, and that way you can use that in your own personal recovery.
100%. And Diana, I don't like to ask for, putting you on a hard spot and saying, hey, give us some success stories. But I would like to talk with you about maybe some of the, conversations you have with an individual that might show up the first day. I can only imagine feeling defeated, unsure, kind of scared, nervous. But take me through the follow-up to that after we're all through the weeds a little bit. I could only imagine the feel-good moments, almost the hair-rising moments, on your arm there a little bit whenever you're having those conversations.
So as you're saying that, and I have people's names and faces popping into my head, I actually got goosebumps.
Yeah.
It is. We actually have the pleasure of having some staff members here that came through this program.
Wow.
Yeah. So to me, that alone speaks volumes to the fact that this actually does work. So getting the opportunity to have people have experience, have the experience of moving through this particular program and believing in it so wholeheartedly that they have now returned to be an employee here, is huge. We recently had a gentleman that came through our program call and ask if he could come and give his testimony to the group of gentlemen that are here now. So we had that happen just here recently. And he was very honest about the fact, that he had been here twice. First time he had his heels dug in, didn't want to do it. He was only here because he had to be. Second time, something clicked, and he's been sober since. And so that was really, really amazing to see. We have other individuals that have gone on to work in other treatment centers, and so I know at my personal experience, I have a couple of, I used to be the outpatient counselor in the past, and I have a couple of ladies that I had in my outpatient on my caseload that have now gone on to, they have formed a nonprofit organization themselves, and they have a Facebook page of over 2,000 members. And so it's really,
that's incredible.
It's really awesome to see them doing community events, and I can actually be involved in the community events that they are now behind. So that's been a really neat experience for me to have seen that come full circle. I have a couple, I could go on and on. I have a couple of staff members here that I was involved with previously in another setting, and obviously another role, I guess, and now they're my employees. So that is really, for me, that's a personal, kind of a selfish win.
Yeah.
But, just the I don't know, the feeling you get from seeing people, like I said, that full circle, and now they're giving back to the community. They're giving back to, other people that are suffering the way that they had suffered previously. And that's really a neat thing to be a part of.
It really is. And Diana, one thing I just heard too that's such a testament to Centerstone is, dug his heels in the first time, but the second time was ready to really tackle this. And that shows that, right off the bat, it might not be the perfect, first step. It might be something that things go wrong, but you at least know that Centerstone's going to be that constant partner for you. And if you're ready, you're ready. And I think that's the biggest testament of the entire conversation.
Right.
And,
and I was going to say, unfortunately, people do come back. Recovery is it's not a pretty picture all the time. People do relapse, but what we really strive for is that something when they were here struck a chord, so that they know if they ever do need us, they are more than welcome. We want them to come back. We want them to come and get the help that they need and not feel shame or embarrassment about it, because we do know that sometimes that is part of it.
Yeah, 100%. And Diana, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And my apologies for a later email to get you some questions
That's
back
okay.
to you. But the fact of the matter is, it's great to know that we have these resources around us, and that we can easily pick up the phone or go to recoverwithus.org and find all that wonderful information. But that leads me to my final point, Diana. If you're looking for a fresh start on the road to recovery, a life free from addiction is possible, and it starts with Diana and the team at Centerstone. Centerstone is a national leader in mental health and substance use disorder treatment for people of all ages, with a commitment to delivering care that changes people's lives. Centerstone's dedicated clinicians, they use evidence-based practices in their treatment programs. There's so many unknowns on the road to recovery, but one thing you can know for sure is that Centerstone, Diana, the Fellowship House, and all of the components that make up this wonderful organization will be a constant guiding force for you on your recovery journey. Addiction can happen to anybody, but so can recovery. So start working towards your recovery today by visiting Centerstone online at recoverwithus.org. That's recoverwithus.org. Diana, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you, you too, CJ. I appreciate the opportunity.
No problem. 9:44 is the time here in downtown Alton. We'll take a quick break. Our daily show rolls around the corner, and we wrap up the 9 right after this.